and I got started in real estate in 2006. January of 2006, I started out in the business. I'm probably a little unique in that I'm not from Cincinnati. I moved here in the year 2000. I worked here as an auto body technician for up until 2006. My wife and I started, I guess, somewhere around 2003. I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad and got into investing in real estate. And we bought some rental properties, and the next logical progression was to get my real estate license. Got my license in 2006 and started out with RE/MAX right from the start. And got my first check, I guess, in March 15th of that year. So.
All right. Thank you, Jason. Our next panelist this morning is Amy Brookhammer.
Hello, I'm Amy Brookhammer. I am with Keller Williams Advisors in Columbia, Tusculum. I started actually in March of 2005 in Atlanta, and then I decided that Cincinnati would be a better market for me. So I moved back home to Cincinnati and got my license in June of 2006 up here. So I've been licensed in 3 states now, which is not fun. I originally started with RE/MAX and have since moved to Keller Williams. June 15th, I think I got my license or something like that, and I had 3 closings the end of August. So I feel like 60 days is pretty normal for a closing check. What else?
That's good for now.
Okay.
And then we'll go through the rest of the questions, but thank you. Our next panelist, Liz Davidson. Come on down, Liz.
Good afternoon. I'm Liz Davidson. I work for Star One Realtors, and I've been in the business for about 6 years, in January, 6 years. I worked for Provident Bank, who was bought out by National City. So I was living on severance, and I had been in the REO area for several years, and I had agents that I had hired encourage me to go get your license, Liz. So it was either move to Texas, Chicago, or get my license. So I did. I was very hesitant, living on commission, but it's been a go since. I got my first check. I started with my first client before I was licensed, and I didn't do anything. I just had them sitting there waiting for me to be licensed, listed their house, and within 30 days, had a closing.
Awesome. All right. Okay, and our final panelist, James Pitzer.
Hello, I'm James Pitzer. I'm with Coldwell Banker West Shell. I'm out of the Union Center Regional Office, and for those of you that don't know where that is, it's in Westchester, right off 75. I got licensed in January of 2005, more or less fresh out of Miami University in Oxford. I wanted to be an attorney and just couldn't bear to sit through any more school. So the girl at the time that I was dating, I think probably kind of got tired of me being a lazy bum and said, why don't you get your license, your real estate license? I said, okay. So the next thing I know, I'm sitting at Hondros, and I got licensed. So for me, it was probably 60 to 90 days till I got my first check. And I was very eager to have that momentous occasion. So I love the business, and I'm happy to be here with all of you today.
Yeah, you get to keep it because then you're going to pass it down. Because like I said, we've got a list of questions. You've got the list of questions in front of you. And so we're going to go through these questions and have them each answer the questions. And then after we get through them, because they'll go pretty quickly. And then we're going to open it up so that you can ask whatever questions. So hopefully some of these questions will spark thoughts in your head. What I would suggest, because I know you're all going to want to go, like, can I ask him this now? Just write it down underneath the name of the person if there's someone you want to direct it to, and then we will get to you to ask the question. So you've already answered the first question. When did you receive your first real estate paycheck? And it was interesting, you all received it fairly early. And that makes a huge difference, I think, in someone's perspective in this business, because when you come in and the paycheck is 0, every week until you get that first paycheck. Getting the first paycheck helps tremendously. So James, we're going to start with you, and you could just pass the mic down as we go through. When you were a newbie, where did most of your leads come from?
I think it probably came from friends and family. You know, people that I think I probably could have called on to bail me out of jail. You know, that's sort of how I think of it. You know, people that knew me, that knew of me, that knew my family, that I didn't really have to sell my services to. And I think, you know, I was very fortunate to have, you know, been born and raised here in Cincinnati, and I know a lot of people, and I think that always helps, you know, to get us started in this business.
Okay, Liz?
Very similar. I had my church. I had several referrals from my church. And my aunt, the family representative on a house, and purchased a house, and friends and family mostly.
Okay. Amy?
We were fortunate enough to be at the age where a lot of our friends were purchasing their first real estate when I moved back. So I helped probably 5 or 6 people that year purchase their first property, and I previously purchased like 4 properties. So I was well versed in the process from a purchaser's perspective, and then really kind of spun off a lot of referrals from those original friends. And then I also started coaching in that first summer that I was licensed with a guy that I probably won't recommend. But he had me focusing on for sale by owners. And I had nothing else to do. So I would just go look at for sale by owners all day long. And I ended up getting enough listings to where I actually could pay my bills. So, and that just, I continued to get referrals from those original FSBO leads that I was listing. So it just kind of, I never stopped at an opportunity to get any bit of business that could fall on the floor. So that's how I started.
Okay. Jason?
Well, being that... Okay, you want me to hold up for a second?
No, that's okay.
Okay, being that I started in the business, I moved to this area from 200 miles away. I had no, I had no friends. Well, I had some friends. They were all in the auto body business though, so they really weren't key home buyer candidates. I had no family, so I guess I adopted, my broker had me go through Brian Buffini's 100 Days to Greatness, and I really adopted that practice of carrying 5 business cards in my shirt pocket, and whether it was the guy that cut meat at my deli or somebody that I met at a restaurant, I really had to go out and sell myself, pass out cards. I'm not a big fan of open houses now, but I sat open houses for other agents in our office, and I had to meet people and build a referral base really out of nothing, not having anybody to. But that was really key, I think, in developing the business that I have today, was building a foundation and seeking referrals. And when you don't have any family to back up on or anything like that, it was tough getting started, but you just got to get out there and say what you do and be proud to be a realtor and hand that card to perfect strangers and try to get business.
So none of you practice the secret agent. You've never heard of the secret agent? That's why you did so well in your first business. Because it's so many times when I've talked with new agents, I said you can't just tell people one time that you're now in this business. You got to tell them over and over and over and over, and even the people who know you. Do you know how many realtors on average a consumer knows? 10.4. So if I know 10.4 and you're one of the 10.4, I've got 9.4 other people I could call. So it's important that whatever you did was the right thing to get people to call you on this business. So where do most of your leads come from now?
My gross commission, are we back with the other mic?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Do we have the other one?
She's getting.
She's getting, okay.
My gross commission income for the most part right now is split 50-50 between repeat and referral category and the internet. We do actually do a significant amount of business through both our Real Pro Systems website what we do with Remax's international website and sites like Zillow, Trulia, and other listed syndication sites.
80% of my business consistently is repeat and referral clients, and that's, if I had it my way, all I would work with, and just expand on those every year.
About 90% of my business is all bank-owned property. So I work with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Fifth Third, other large lenders, and I build that business.
The majority of my business comes from repeat and referral sources. I don't want to say it's been that way since day one, but you know, everything builds on everything. So.
Okay, and while you're on that, what's your most effective method of prospecting?
I think just picking up the telephone and making the call. And you know, Karen said it best. You know, you have to constantly remind your sphere of influence of what you do, because they forget. You know, it's not their job to know what we do. It's our job to inform them and to constantly drill it into their head what our profession is and how we can help them and anybody and everybody that they know.
Okay.
I've dealt with most of the same clients for several years, but every time you lose somebody that you work with, you have the potential of losing all of your listings or a good majority of them. So as the bank world changes every day, I constantly have to make contact with new people that come into the business, people that don't know anything. Oftentimes you offer your services to train them so that they fall in love with you and that they keep using you. So, and every time, you know, family, they're always surprised. Oh, you're still in that? Oh, like it's this passing thing. It's not this career that you have, but it's gonna, you know, oh, it's like, you know, you're selling a little something on the side. So you got to keep reminding them, postcards, all that kind of stuff.
I feel like I get a lot of business from Facebook, just by being who I am every day. And I think that's prospecting itself. And the other thing that I'm not a huge fan of is just going to parties and things like that and talking to people and getting invited to different groups, events, and throwing my name out there. It's been great, and being a part of charity groups and things like that always bring in business. So that's face-to-face, I would say, is the most effective way to prospect for me.
Probably maybe my greatest prospecting endeavor right now is on the internet, but I want to preface that with the fact that the internet, a lot of people come to me even outside of our market, and I talk a lot of different things, and I do a lot of work with Real Pro Systems, the company that hosts my website, and internet prospecting should be a secondary thing to a great repeat and referral business. We spend a lot of money to bring in the prospects that we do online, but it's very important that each prospect that we close from the internet, we want that to turn into additional business for our team. And so when an agent comes to me that's new in the business and says, what do you do online? I want to get online. I want to start making commission income off the internet. I say, well, have you established a good repeat and referral model first? So we bring in a lot of leads, but the key to internet success is having systems to follow up with prospects. Most of the folks that come to you online are, in my experience, 6 to 9 months from making a transaction, and you need to be the person that not only calls them first, but builds a relationship over time. So.
And just a real quick question, how quickly what's your target to respond?
My internet.
In minutes.
I heard, yeah. My rule for internet marketing, it doesn't matter how good you are, it matters that you're the first to respond. So I don't respond to any of them actually. I have buyer's agents on my team that do that task, but they are required to get on. They get the email on their phone, they're supposed to respond and put notes in the system from their smartphone. So
and immediately. How quickly?
Immediately.
Okay.
So you don't
give them an option, just now.
Yeah, but if they're in a meeting or something, they can't always pull that off. But the lead comes in and it's red until the lead has been qualified in our system. So they need to turn those leads from red to white or another color and assign an action plan to find out, is this person just a looky-loo? Are they working with another agent? First question that we always ask. And what's their timeline? Do they have a home to sell? You need to call and qualify the prospect. And most people might be standoffish, but you give them a friendly call, you offer service, and you follow up over time. We bring in 120 leads a week just from one campaign that we do. And, I'm sorry, 120 a month. It's about 40 per week search requests for Ohio alone, and you have to have a system to carry them over time, drip campaigns and such to follow up with them.
Right.
Some personal
And
level.
just to kind of follow up what he's saying, is that 85% of, if you are the first one to respond, 85% of the chance you're going to work with that client. On average, a consumer emails 6 realtors. When you get that email, they've emailed 5 other realtors. So you're not the only one that they're waiting to hear from, and they're looking to hear from the first. And if you think about any of the online purchasing that you're doing, you want instant response. In fact, I was online a couple weeks ago to do some, oh, I can do this, I got my own.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. But I was online and it said, do you want online chat? And I said, sure, I'll do online chat because I had a question, and I got a response back about 5 minutes later that said no one was available. Why'd you offer it? I thought there was somebody behind it. Okay, what have you tried that didn't work? Have you tried anything that didn't work?
For me, and I know it does work because I have a very, very good competitor in my marketplace that does it successfully, but I've never had luck with expireds or FSBOs and door knocking. I'd rather work with my repeat and referrals and cultivate new business online. So although those things work, and probably my #1 competitor in the Anderson Township area is the best expired listing working team I've ever seen, but it works for them, but has not worked for me.
Okay.
I have never, ever, ever had any luck with any type of lead service, sales company, anything like that. I really don't believe that somebody can get you better leads than you can get yourself, or ever pay for any lead like that of any kind. And I also really don't like dealing with relocation companies.
Okay. Next.
I've also paid for the leads through different companies, and not so much for me, but for my buyer's agents to keep new things coming in from them. Well, it's for me ultimately, but to keep them afloat as well, not only counting on the business that we're pulling in on just my listings. I think the key to that is what Jason said. If you don't have someone that's willing to really continuously follow up on those and make them a priority, they're not going to be successful. And I had several expensive lessons trying that.
I don't think there's really one thing in particular that I can think of, but probably early on, when I first started, I spent a lot of time with expired listings, in most cases to no avail. So I'm a lot more choosy about the expireds that I go after now. You've really got to narrow it down so that you're not running all over town on a wild goose chase.
Okay, and just kind of a follow-up to that, what's been your biggest waste of your time and money? And it may be something similar to what you've already said, because Liz, you mentioned money, but James, what was the most?
I really can't think of one.
Okay,
I really can't.
fair enough.
I would say again, the internet leads.
Internet leads?
And some large conferences you pay thousands of dollars to go to that don't always generate much, because you're competing against thousands of people that show up for these events, and it's difficult sometimes to really make headway.
And you're looking for the conferences to network with other agents for referrals?
Well, I specifically deal with like 5-Star and
Oh, got it.
REO Network and
Okay.
things like that, where you can meet asset managers and different bank presidents and try to get on their list. So sometimes that's very difficult, and it can be $4,000 to $6,000 to attend those, so it's very pricey.
Okay.
I think that, like Jason said before, the priority should always be building a good book of business from repeat and referral clients, first and foremost. And I get a lot of questions from people about my website and about, you know, is that bringing in money? Or so many people call me and say, how do I get my website up fast to make business? And I just really honestly believe that a website should not be a primary concern for a new agent. I think that you need to focus on your sphere and don't even mess with the website. It's expensive. Pay for it when you actually make money and pay for it then. But I just feel like a website is just not a good spend until you're actually making a consistent income and you can pay your bills on a regular basis and you have a decent group of people that are following you, because then they'll want to look at your website. But I really feel like anything that your broker gives you at this point is going to be all you need to get started, and I really feel like it's a waste of time to be spending too much time or money on that in the beginning.
Okay.
And to follow up, most of our brokerage websites do have good pages for lead generation that I've seen out there. But as far as waste of time and money, who's sponsoring this event today? Is the Inquirer sponsoring this event? Okay. Biggest waste of time and effort, I would say, is a combination of direct mailing and print marketing. When I was sitting in Honduras in late year 2005, going through the real estate classes and looking at Homes magazines, I loved nothing more than former auto body technician Kevin Hildebrand's multi-page spread in Homes magazine, and I wanted to do that. And I got enough listings where I could fill up 2 or 3 pages in the Harmon Homes as it was back then. And it seemed like I would get leads. I'd always tie my call capture number to the ads that I'd run so I could kind of track. And it got to a point mid-year 08 that I just didn't get any leads from it. And then it didn't seem that I got any leads from Inquirer, and I spent a lot of money on the Community Journal. And you know, it was hard for me to tell my listing clients, because it was a big part of my presentation, I guess, that, hey, I'll spend more money on your listing than anybody else on this print marketing stuff. It was hard for me to drop that from my program, my presentation that I'd make to sellers. But I'm actually doing a lot better by taking that money and investing it on listing enhancements on Trulia and Zillow and other sites like that. So I would say print marketing and direct mailing.
Okay. And just to kind of a follow-up on that, NAR does an annual survey. I don't know whether you've heard about it. It's a home buyer, home seller profile, and they survey home buyers and sellers each year, and they ask them various questions. But one of the questions they ask them is, where did you find the house, or what was the source of how you found the house that you ended up purchasing? And can anyone tell me what the top 3 sources of that find is?
Internet, agent, and sign.
Internet, agent, and sign. And you would be right. So when you think about your marketing and what you're going to put together, your marketing, you said internet first. Do you know which of the 3 is first? You'd be wrong. It's the agent. It's you. You are the first source of business. That's only by a few percentage points, but it's interesting that when you go back historically, do you know what the #1 source of where people found the home they bought? No. It's one of those 3.
Agent.
It was the sign. It was the sign. For those of us who've been around long enough, it was the sign. The sign was the most effective piece of marketing tool. Interesting that even in today's world, it is top 3. It is number 3, but it's still in the top 3. So interesting you say that about the print media. Okay, what is the best investment of your time?
Best investment of my time. Best investment of my time, I think, is the time that I spend developing systems to provide a level of customer service that I don't think my competitors are going to have. And I do that with the help of an assistant that I have dedicated to my team. But with the market in general, with sellers losing money, and with tremendous downward pressure on our commission that we get on these transactions.
We just heard about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, depressing.
Yeah, and I think that you need to offer a service package that goes above and beyond. I mean, we have things as much. I mean, we have a follow-up program to each closing that we send out a letter from our team asking the seller 8 weeks after the closing if they received their deed, and if they received their deed, did they get their copy of their title insurance policy? all of our HUDs are put in a tickler file and they go out at tax time January 15th, so everybody gets that. I mean, you just have to take the extra steps, I think, to go and above and beyond what a lot of other agents are not doing and provide better service. And that's the best expenditure of my time.
I think spending time, money, and effort on my past clients is the best use of my time and investment. Another thing, kind of piggybacking on that, is getting really good people to work for you and support you that care more about your business than themselves. I have a buyer's agent that works with me that is the sweetest person in the world. She cares more about the way our team is perceived than her feelings, which, you know, it takes a lot to find the right fit for your team. And they represent you, and through that continue to grow business. So past clients and just who's working for you.
Okay, Liz?
There must be something in that because that's true. My answer's similar to that. I think having an assistant that is dedicated to you, they will go the extra mile, and I think you have to make it worthwhile for them. A buyer's agent that's hungry for money and to feed their families, and you know that's really important. If you have someone working for you that this is their part-time job, obviously it affects your pocketbook as well, and the people that are calling you and the response time that they're getting. And probably one of different for me in this realm of the business is that I spend time talking to all of you, which many agents that do what I do, they won't. They won't pick up the phone. They won't talk to other realtors in the business who are calling about their listings. They won't answer their emails. So I spend a lot of my time. My broker's always like, stop answering the phone, but if I don't, you're going to keep calling, and I'm not going to get a sale, and you know. So I think it's important to also spend my time investing myself and other agents.
The best investment of my time is without a doubt prospecting. Always having the new stream of buyers and sellers in the queue lined up and ready to go. And you know, some of them, you know, might be a year out, but it's always important to have that as a constant, so that yes, you will have business a year from now. So I spend the majority of my time prospecting. It's kind of like panning for gold. You have to be very patient because you know it's going to take, in some cases, a year or two to finally pay off.
Okay. Now this next question I'm going to ask you, and I'm just going to ask for a show of hand because these are what things do you have. Who has a personal website? Okay, 3 out of the 4. Not to pick on you, Liz.
My business is a little different. My
Yeah.
model's different.
Well, and that's one of the things, that's why I wanted to ask these questions, because everybody has a different way of doing the business that can get the same result. How many of you have a blog? Okay, we got Jason and Amy have blogs. How many of you have a Facebook page? Okay, and I'm going to ask you, do you have a personal Facebook page? And do you have a business Facebook page? Okay, so 3 of you, Jason, Amy, and Liz, have personal. Amy and Jason have also a business Facebook page, because there's 2 elements of that. How many of you have a LinkedIn profile? James, buddy. He's out prospecting. He's building those relationships with people. What a thought, people. Okay. How many of you are on Twitter? Amy is on Twitter. How many of you have a smartphone? We got James to raise his hand. He's got a smartphone. All right. And I'm curious, what type of smartphone do you have?
I use a Droid Incredible.
Droid Incredible.
Blackberry.
Blackberry.
Droid X.
Droid X.
BlackBerry.
Blackberry. 2 Blackberries, 2 Droids. Yeah. Where's the iPhone?
It's on my list of things to do.
All right. James, what is the most effective tool that you use?
Some of these guys are going to laugh at me probably, but every time I sell a house, I send out a postcard to the bullseye of my sphere. I inundate these people's mailbox with my smiling face. And it's really kind of funny because I get calls almost in direct timing to them receiving this postcard. And a lot of times it's, hey, my buddy down the street wants to sell, go talk to him. So, you know, for me, that's effective. A lot of the other agents in my office kind of laugh at me because they think printed material is old school. I like it, personally.
If it works, use it.
Well, and you target it, that's the key.
Yeah, it's not just for you.
Liz?
Tools that I use, I use a lot of technology, a lot of, I have my iPad, I have my phone, I always have technology on me. So, and my laptop is my best friend up until midnight. So I use all of that to, you know, keep my day going and keep me organized.
Okay. Amy?
Well, my BlackBerry is kind of like my third arm. It's always on, but I do something a little different. Also, I also pay for Spinbox. I think that's what it's called. And it's been an amazing time saver for me. It actually converts voicemail to text, and then I don't have to listen to my voicemails, and it saves just so much time. And also, I'm always in the car or somewhere, and when it converts that message to text, then their phone number's easy to click on. I don't have to remember it, write it down, type it in. Just makes it super easy. And I would say the other thing that I find a lot of value in is I have a ScanSnap or a SnapScan. I'm not really sure what. Yeah, Fujitsu, and I can run my 16-page contract through that thing in 30 seconds. It's a PDF, it's on email, it's first generation every time. The savings is incredible in time and effort. I don't even have a fax machine because I just use email and the scanner. So I got that like 2 years ago, and it's been an incredible time savings.
And say the name of that again.
Is it?
Fujitsu Snap Scan or Scan Snap. Scan Snap.
Scan
I
Snap.
always get it backwards.
Okay.
But it's a great product.
All right, awesome.
The two key tools that I use, and I'm not trying to be a pitch man for any one product, but we use the Wise Agent to manage our back office for the buyer's agents that we work with, and Martina, my transaction manager. And it's very imperative in that it helps us manage the checklist of items that Martina has to do to get our files to the closing table. It also gives her the ability to put notes in the system so that if she has a conversation with somebody during business hours while I'm out on call and a client happens to call me at 9 o'clock, I can go into that transaction and see where she left off with the person so that I can speak intelligently about the situation. This is also a tool that manages your most important thing in your business, which is your database of past clients and active clients. Wise Agent syncs with my phone, so every contact that's in there is in my phone, and my calendar is synced as well to Wise Agent. And then one other tool that I'm a raving fan of, does anybody in here use DocuSign? I see a couple hands. DocuSign, it's the best $20 a month you can spend as a real estate agent to convert your business to electronic signatures. We invite the co-op agents that we work with into our DocuSign system that we're paying for and let them use it to get signatures from their clients. DocuSign easily allows you to upload a contract or document. You put where the client needs a sign, and this is now accepted by HUD for FHA transactions. We get some Fannie Mae bank-owned properties that kick it back, but other than that, it seems to be widely accepted. And I had an agent ask me, actually it was a loan officer that we were trying to get to use DocuSign, and he said, don't you lose the personal touch of going out and meeting with your client and getting a signature, or forcing your client to try to find a fax machine to send a signature back to you. And no, I think our clients actually appreciate this service. We hear awesome compliments from co-op agents and everybody. So I highly, highly recommend looking to DocuSign to just make your business more efficient.
You know, it's funny you say that when people ask about, don't you lose the personal touch? I think the personal touch was lost some time ago. I mean, what happens when you're dealing with a client who's not even in a state or city?
Yeah.
Don't you have to use? I mean, for those of you who remember the good old days, what did we do with a contract 30 years ago? What did we do when they were out of town 30 years ago? You mailed it. FedEx didn't exist. You didn't do overnight. I mean, today it's reality where people are emailing and people are accepting of that unless they don't have a computer, you know.
Well, I'm the guy that bought a $2,000 tablet PC made by Fujitsu so that I could sign my contracts right on the PC and go fully paperless. And our team is paperless with the Wise Agent, DocuSign, and sometimes that tablet PC. But I would not have made the investment in this piece of equipment that's already outdated 2 years after the fact had I used DocuSign. I would just have a regular laptop and use DocuSign, and you know, I can send an addendum to my buyer client when it's at the Reds game, and he can sign it on his Android, turn it around, and get it back to us. And people appreciate that as a service to really use technology to meet their needs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very good. Okay. How many days per week do you work?
Probably too many. Real estate is our...
There are only 7 days.
Yeah. Right now it seems like, I did take the weekend off this last weekend, which was nice, but I probably work 5.5 to 6 days a week consistently throughout the year.
Okay. Amy?
I work 5 days a week, all weekdays, some evenings on the weekdays. I do my best to get my appointments during the day, the weekday or the weekday night. Occasionally I'll do a Saturday morning if I really want to. But a year ago I decided that when I brought on my buyer's agent that I was no longer going to work weekends. And that was the plan from the beginning. And I enjoyed a year of no weekend working, and now I have a 10-week-old child, and my husband and I have agreed that we are not working on the weekends. Of course, if a contract comes in, that is a priority, but no scheduled meetings on the weekends.
Okay.
Consistently work 6 days a week, even with consistent or buyer's agent.
So even being in the banking business doesn't give you banker hours.
Saturdays mean I drive around.
Okay.
I rope my husband into going with me to places I don't want to go to by myself, which he loves to do on his day off.
I'm sort of a workaholic, and really up until this year, I worked more or less 7 days a week. Now I'm trying desperately to set one day aside, and it's usually Sunday, you know, to spend time with my wife and family, and, you know, doing fun stuff. You know, my wife always says, Jim, you need a hobby. And I tell her, I've got one. It's selling real estate.
That you love to do. Okay. James, what is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
This was kind of a hard one because I get so much advice, you know.
What's the best piece of advice?
You know, I think the best piece of advice is that you don't need every client that comes down the pike. You know, it's okay to say no. And I think a lot of people inherently have trouble saying no because we're givers. I mean, that's what we do. That's why we got into this business. But it's okay. It's okay to say, no, I think you would be better serviced by somebody else.
Okay. Liz?
The best piece of advice I received was to prioritize, decide what's most important, and spend your time doing that, and learn when to shut it down, turn it off, and have some downtime, because it can be overwhelming. Regardless of who you're representing or what you're doing, you could literally do this all the time. So you have to know when to shut it off.
I agree with James. Every client doesn't have to be yours, and that was a really hard thing for me to realize after a couple of years. But I would say that the best piece of advice that I've received and that I can give all of you is always do what you say you're going to do and always be on time.
Probably the best advice that I think, looking back, that I've ever got was I worked in a very labor-intensive career for 10 years right after high school, and I think along the way I had an influential person tell me that I had to own my own business, and I think that's what kind of drew me into the rental property and rehabbing houses thing, which then turned me into a realtor. And you know, I think that we all own our own company, and we need to take an ownership interest in the service we provide, and the job that we do, I guess. So that's, you know, that's been, to be self-employed was probably the best advice I've ever gotten.
Okay, and our final question, what do you see as the next thing that you're going to change or improve in your business?
For my business personally, I'd like to be like Amy and have the weekends off, which is why I'm making another attempt here at having a team. And we've got a couple buyer's agents working with us now. And I guess trying to, a good friend of mine in Dayton that is kind of the same, he would be sitting here, Mark Ryan, you know Mark, but you know, he has a successful team in Dayton. He said you have buyer's agents, I guess, to buy your life back. And that's, you know, it's kind of hard to part with a generous percentage of a commission and you hand somebody a buyer that's buying a $300,000 house and they're going to go out and make it easy. But, you know, it is part of buying your life back. And I called, a couple years ago, I did a transaction with a really great agent, Mark Shupp. And I remember I was in the middle of this transaction. I called Shupp's office on a Thursday and asked for Mark, and they said, well, we're sorry. Thursday is Mark's scheduled day off, and he's not available. Would you like to talk to somebody else in the team? And that's kind of when it hit home to me that I need to try to put systems in place to buy my life back, be more like Mark and Amy.
All right, Amy?
No question, it costs money to have a team and to have your weekends off. Last year it cost me $55,000 to have a buyer's agent so I could have my weekends off. But you know what? I would rather have the time with my family right now than to be working on the weekends. The thing that I'm always focused on tirelessly is efficiency and getting better at what I do so that I can spend less time doing it. And this year I think, last year I really worked on my listing process and getting it down to, you know, a very lean process so that I could do more faster. This year, my focus is more on systems, which I've forever been awful with implementing and following through on. So I'm hoping that that's just another level of efficiency that I can add to my process that I can spend less time working. So we'll see.
Liz?
For me, it's also systems. We pay for all this technology that we have, and we use, you know, maybe 5 or 10% of what it's able to provide for us. So for me, it's actually, I bought it, now I need to actually implement using a lot of it to the full extent that it can be useful to me for.
James?
The next step for me is hiring an assistant. I don't have one. I'm kind of a control freak. So, yeah, we all are, yeah. So I need to bring somebody into the fold so that, you know, I can have a little bit of my life back. You know, eventually, I suppose we'll start a family, and, you know, it'd be nice to have a little bit of extra time. It's hard, though, when you love what you do, you know, to give that up.
Well, and finding the right person to trust, and I know those of you who have buyer's agents, that's usually the biggest dilemma is how do I duplicate myself to give the same service and they care, the same level of care. And Amy, you said that about your buyer's agent, but you're lucky you found that, because that is a critical part. All right, those are the questions that we had prepared ahead of time. What questions do you have? Pete?
I have a question.
Okay.
Thanks for sharing. This is awesome information, so thanks to each one of you. YPN is not just about young or new, it's about people wanting to network or agents that want to reinvent themselves. But you're all young, so let me hear how you handle the objection. You haven't been in the business that long, or you know, you look young to somebody. How did you guys handle that objection?
I'll start since I've got the control here. You know, for me it was really hard. I got into this business when I was 24 years old, and you know, I look kind of grizzled now, but I looked even younger then. And it was hard. You know, I remember one of the first relocation listing appointments I went on was about a $500,000 house, and you know, sitting in these people's great room, you know, I had to convince them that, yeah, you know, I wasn't young and dumb and I knew how to sell real estate. And so for me it was showing them, you know, some of the other properties that I've sold and basically selling myself and I think making youth an advantage.
When I was in real estate, I I worked for different banks, and I used to manage a little bank here in Cincinnati. I was older than all the people that worked for me, and I thought, when I'm 30, I'll be mature when I'm 30. Not that I wasn't mature, but people would look at me differently. And then I'm approaching 35, and that all changes. But I think it's just the way that you really approach people and show them that you are intelligent about what you're doing. Sell yourself, sell what your technology, sell your processes, but mostly just let them know that you're informed. You know what you're doing, and that there's no one that can do it better than you.
I always used to get the question, how long have you been doing this? And I would say to somebody, well, I sell, at the time it was probably like 40 houses a year, which is more than what most people do in a year. So I kind of have been, you know, if you look at it that way, I've been in the business, say, 2 years at a time, and I've done 3 times the average agent does. So do you want to just say I've been in it for 6 years? Because it's experience. It's not time in the business, it's experience and transactions. And I always have looked young, even when I was selling pharmaceuticals, and it was frustrating for me. So I would always just be as informed as I possibly can and just be armed with knowledge, and that really kind of overcomes that concern with age and youth, and I think just self-confidence is really important.
I agree with everything you said there. The one thing that I think I did right in I did a lot of things wrong, I guess, but the one thing that I did right early on in my career was I pursued designations. I know you did as well. CRS, Certified Residential Specialist, only 4% of NAR membership achieves this designation. So coming out of Hondros in 2006, I laid that little map that the CRS has on how to get the designations, and I found out, okay, with the least amount of transactions, I have to take this many classes. I calculated it, and I achieved that sometime early in the year in 07, so, or maybe it was at the end of 07 actually, but at any rate, that was the one thing. I got the ABR, the ePro, the CRS, and although it doesn't mean much to consumers, if you put in your presentation that you have a designation that only 4% of our contemporaries at NAR membership have, that seemed to build credibility right from Jump Street. And you know, as you build transaction volume, you can throw that in as well. But I really don't see much objection at all due to my time in the business at this point.
And just, I want to point out something. Did you hear what he said about he graduated from Hondros and took out the map? He had a goal. He set the goal. He had a written goal. Mm-hmm. And he achieved the goal. And writing down goals is key. I bet each one of you have a written business plan. Do you?
Yeah.
James, you gonna raise your hand on it?
Somewhere.
Somewhere. Help me here.
And I'll touch on that and make a plug for CRS as well. If anybody's interested in getting a CRS designation, CRS 200, CRS 200 business planning. We had Annette had it here a couple it was the year before last, or 2 years ago we had it here. But CRS 200 business planning should be a rite of passage for any realtor that wants to build a professional business, that wants to look at their GCI, calculate their average commission per transaction, how many transactions you need to meet your objectives, and whether or not you are spending money wisely. So I can't, every November I started, it takes me through till after Christmas actually laying out the plan for the next year, how much money we're going to spend with Google, how much we're going to pay buyers agents. It all goes into the equation, and you've got to have a plan, or else you're just spinning your wheels and spending money on a bunch of junk that doesn't build business.
Amen. Okay. Jamie.
I was wondering if you're all business owners and you all wake up and you have, you know, you could go to work, maybe could not go to work, right? So you don't work for anyone. Can you describe the anatomy of a typical work day? Do you have a plan? Do you know what that day looks like even before it starts?
Well, usually after I drop my son off at school, I go down and I check the inbox from overnight to see what might be in there. And then I try to manage my day. My business, I'm now a little more like Amy, I guess, in that I'm working on building the listing side of my business and trying to shift all buyer transactions to the buyer's agents that I have on the team. So my day pretty much just involves, I try to work in a little bit of prospecting, and my prospecting isn't working with the internet leads, but working with past clients, calling to see how people who just closed last month, how things are going with the new house, touching base with clients that I haven't spoken with. So I start out by looking at those inbound emails and kind of plan the day from there, and most of my appointments tend to be in the evening then. So.
Last year, I worked, every day. I'd get up in the morning, go straight to my office, certainly work from at least, 8 until 6 or 7, maybe 8 o'clock at night. Now I wake up when my boss wakes me up, and we start the day from there. I have a sitter 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I try to pack as much as I can in those days so that I can have I can't concentrate if I have somebody crying in the background or whatever. So I try to do as much as I can during those 3 days and just really kind of try to do some time blocking with different things. And if it's really hard now that I have somebody else taking up my time, because I have to say no to things that I never had to say no to before, and that's really hard. But other than that, I mean, and it goes back to priorities and saying, what makes me the most money, what doesn't make me money, what do I need to do now, and what do I need to give up. So that's it.
The thing I hate the most that I hear from family is you have a flexible schedule. You work on flex schedule. What is that? I haven't known that since I started this in January 2005. I think that one of the things that make us all successful is that we wake up every day, and I personally go to the office because I work better at the office than I do at home. I have a home office, but I'm more productive in an office environment. So I wake up every day and I'm at the office by 8:30, and I work a full day. 5 or after. Doesn't mean I couldn't have the luxury of not doing that, but if I don't do it during the day, I'm going to do it at night, or I'm going to take away from my family or my weekend. So I think that it's important that if you're getting into this, that you understand that you have to plan to really have a career and have a job. This isn't about coming in and trying to make $200,000 a year working part-time. I wish I were that successful or lucky to do that, but unfortunately that really isn't how it's worked out. Any of you?
I agree.
Over the last couple of years, I've done a much better job of planning my day and planning my week ahead of time. And so I feel like I'm in a position now where I run my business instead of my business running me. And that took a few years to develop, but it's really nice. I mean, when I get up, I pretty much know what the day's going to look like. And it really helps me with time management. If I know exactly where I'm supposed to be, I don't get sidetracked as easily, which in this business, you can let that happen very easily.
And on that note, you all work off of schedules. Are you pretty firm about setting appointments? My question to you is, do you keep the appointments you set for yourself? What do I mean? James, you were talking about prospecting.
Right.
You love to prospect.
Yes.
Do you schedule time for prospecting, and do you respect that appointment as much as you do appointments with other people?
Generally speaking, I prospect mostly in the morning, and I do that from my home office. It's just a little more private that way than going into the office. Normally I do respect that. If something comes up, like this morning, a guy wanted to see a house. It was a second showing, and of course I'm going to do that. I mean, that's business in hand. So I think it's all about making priorities with that.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment about scheduling or respecting? I always find it's a challenge, because I even have the challenge myself, that if I set aside time for me to do something and somebody says, hey Karen, can you? I go yes to them and forget my own appointment, even though it's something I need to do, because I go, oh, I'll do it tonight.
You mentioned giving up the control for a personal assistant, and that's the one thing. Martina, I'm very fortunate to have an awesome assistant, or transaction manager as we refer to her. But Martina runs my schedule. She books my appointments with clients. She blocks my time out. If we sit down and we plan that I'm going to call past clients on Tuesday afternoon, she puts it in a schedule. If we have to move a task like that for money in hand type second showings or listing whatever, she moves the appointment and then puts my prospecting appointment at another time. So for me, because I think real estate people are people, and Martina's a detail person, I had to surrender my scheduling duties to her so that things got done properly. So.
But you are scheduling
Yes.
that time, because I think that's important to
Yep.
do. Question, yes?
Hi, I want to expand on Jim and Liz about saying no, because I say no a lot, but I get paid for it. Meaning, there's a guy behind, I don't do any short sales. Give them to the guy behind me, he pays me after the closing, and I get the unit. So work it out with people. Anything in Kentucky, I tip it to someone in Kentucky that's not licensed in Ohio, because they're not going to tip me anything in Ohio. So pick people. Not necessarily in your own company, sorry. You know, if my commission is too high, I never reduce my commission, but I have a person that I always say, hey, if it's not going to work, because it's not always going to work with me, and I will not reduce my commission. So just don't say no and don't get paid.
Okay? Questions? Did they tell you everything you wanted to know? Yeah, Karen.
Jason, why is agent, is that like an agent software program?
Yes,
Like
it's
Agent Office or?
it's similar to like your top producer and the stuff that it does. It's $25 a month, and the thing I like about Wise Agent is that you can go to Wise Agent. Here I go selling something again, but you can go to Wise Agent. They give you the ability to use it for a month for free. You can put your stuff in, you can try it out, you can set up action plans and see if it works for you. Now after 30 days, they'll come to you and want to bill you to keep going with it. But the thing about Wise Agent versus people that I talk to around the country that use Top Producer is their support is phenomenal. Literally, if you hit the chat button or the help button in the middle of the night, people will get back with you. They actually have the phone with them, and it's free service. So it might not be for everybody. I know other people in our office have tried it and not liked it, but if you're going to buy a product like that on a monthly basis, check it out.
Okay, so you equate Wise Agent with Top Producer?
I would say, yeah, similar things,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. What others, do any of you use a software system like a Wise Agent or a Top Producer?
I mean, I just hate
what-
paying Top Producer.
What do you use to manage your database?
Luckily, interestingly enough, Keller Williams just came to the table with an incredible product that links contact management, email drips, internet leads, the contracts all online, everything's online, and it's called eEdge, and I'm really looking forward to using that. So I've dumped Top Producer for the second time in my career.
You dumped it once before?
Yes.
What'd you go to after you dumped it?
An Excel spreadsheet.
Okay.
And that's what works for me at
That's
this
what I was
point.
gonna ask, okay.
So I'm back to that, and I'm using it on a regular basis, like Top Producer I was not using. And that's the best I can do.
That works. Liz?
I use Client Connect through Star One offers it. It's free for me to use as long as I keep making the money. So that's I use it.
Oh, is there a connection there between earning and receiving?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting concept.
I just use an Excel spreadsheet. I'm a non-techie person for being a young agent. You know, I just don't like all the fancy stuff. You know, keep it simple, keep it basic. I think, you know, for certain people, yeah, you know, the Top Producer and all that is great. For me, keep it simple, because I'm simple.
Okay, fair enough. Yes.
I was just going to say, I think it was Jason who said you haven't lived here all your life, or one of you, I think, had.
Jason.
That's me, yeah.
Was there a certain way that you learned your market when you came here and how you get up to date with things and these things, and anything special you did?
I kind of go everywhere from Florence, Kentucky to Lebanon, Ohio, and you know, I started trying to, and that's something that I'm maybe working on in my business, is trying to narrow it down and build referral partnerships, like you had mentioned. to try to keep my drive time down. You know, I live on the east side of town in Union Township, Claremont County, and I started out trying to work the area right around me, close to home. But once we started generating internet business, that kind of comes in from all over the place, and that's have gun will travel. We're going all over the tri-state. So.
Okay, there's another question.
Yes, James, I think it was for you. You said you do a lot of your prospecting in the morning. What type of prospecting are you doing? Because you're not a techie guy. Are you just calling past clients, or what is more of your avenue?
Yeah, you know, for me, it's calling past clients, following up on the kind of funky leads that you get. You know, you hear so-and-so's, you know, maybe going to be putting up their house, you know, putting it on the market. You know, it's following up on all those little snippets that you hear, you know, throughout the week. You know, making calls and, you know, letting people know, hey, I'm still in the business. If you have anybody that needs to buy or sell a house.
Okay, Brady?
Would you guys mind sharing how many units you did in 2010 and how you fared first quarter this year, and what your thoughts are for the rest of the year for your individual teams or situations? Any or all of you?
I sold 52 units last year. You know, this year I think it started off, you know, pretty good. I think this year probably will be a little more challenging than last. You know, you have to remember last year we had the tax credit for the first 4 months of the year, which really gave us a big boost, and then things kind of went flat. This year's been a little bit more steady, which is, I think, benefited all of us.
Last year I sold about 130 units, and my commissions are smaller, probably. It takes more to make the money, so there's a thought there. This year, it's been a little bit slower. Sometimes that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes you need a little bit of a reprieve. So I'm trying to enjoy that a little bit, because I think it'll pick back up. But this year we're on track, about 15 closings a month.
15
so far.
closings a month, okay.
Last year I did about 50 sides transactions. The first 2 months of the year, I think we had our hands in 20 already, and I wasn't even really working. So let's hope we can keep that up.
In 09, I was about 55 sides, I believe, and we increased. In 2010, we went to 45 sides, but we increased to a $5,300 average commission per unit, which was good. I was actually pleased to see that. And my concern for this year is that, and of course I do my business plan in November, assuming this $5,300 average commission for myself and my buyer's agents. And the thing that I'm seeing now, we have several transactions in the hopper. I would say somewhere around 15 to 20, but I think that the average commission amount is going to go down because the tax credit helped people move up last year, and we got into more 200 to 300 and up transactions that, you know, I think this year's going to be a lot like 09. The first time buyer is going to be the game in town to play, and the commission's probably going to be closer to $4,000 to $4,500 on average.
Mm-hmm. In the last 2 months, if you look at the MLS stats, the average sale price has gone down. And can anyone tell me what percentage of the sales in January and February were, January and February were distressed properties? And those are properties that, oh, we got an answer. What's the percentage? 44%. 44%. You read the report. I love it. And you are?
Very big, 61.
Yes, awesome. He is on top of his game. 44% of the properties of the sales in January and February were distressed.
Versus last year before, January, February?
Barry, what's the number last year? Because I don't have that number.
I'll get back to you on that.
Go ahead. I'll get back to you on that. Darn, I thought you had it. I think it was a little less last year. But you know, when you look at the average sale price going down, that's an indication. And when you look at the percentage, I believe it is higher than it was last year at the same time. But that includes properties that have been identified in MLS. And remember, this is only based on the information that it's only as good as the agents put into the system. If you identify your listing as a short sale, as government-owned, as lender-owned, or meeting lender required, so 44%, it could even be higher.
Karen, last
That's
year was
what I-
31%.
Thank you, 31%, so we're up 13. Yeah, see, that makes a difference in your average commission. Look at those reports, Jason.
I get them in my users committee. So.
Get 'em in, that's right, you do. Okay, other questions? Yes.
Do any of you use any kind of business coaching, or who keeps you accountable professionally, colleague-wise, or? That's my question.
I can be real quick. I don't, but I'm really interested in start. It's something that I'm considering to try to build my business going forward. But Amy, I know the answer to this.
I had a coach up until December when I decided to not do that anymore and focus on my belly. And I'm going to plan on picking that back up again. But I find that a lot of my accountability comes from having a buyer's agent and being responsible to make sure that she's making money, which I think is more concerning to me than a coach. But coaching is excellent.
I don't have a coach. That would be good, or an assistant that schedules all of my day. That would be good too.
Martina.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need an age
She's
number.
tough, Martina.
Oh, no, I've dealt with them. They're very good. They are. They really are. My business model is just a little bit. It's different. It's very different from theirs. The banks pretty much drive my day and my tasks, and you have to call your client every week or 2 weeks and give them an update. Every 2 weeks I have to get reports in and, you know, BPOs and all of that stuff. So, you know, it can be challenging to have 15 of those due in one day and you have to schedule everything out. But I don't have a coach. Maybe that's the key.
I don't have a coach, but we have a great office manager that keeps me on track and gives me a swift kick in the rear when I need it.
So he stays at La Quinta Inn now and again?
Now and again.
Have you seen that commercial? The guy stays at the La Quinta Inn and then he goes in and kicks everybody's ass. It's a funny commercial. Okay, yes?
Jason, you mentioned Julia. Could you elaborate on that and how it's been a benefit to you, or is it worth the money?
Well, with all listing enhancements, I mean, we really look. Our board now syndicates. It used to be, well, when did we start doing that? Was that about a year ago. So we syndicated before the board syndicated, which made me a little upset because it leveled the playing field. Everybody's now doing what I used to do. But we look at key partnerships, and I will say Zillow and Trulia are probably our best. We do the listing enhancement package. It's really cost effective versus Realtor.com, which is not a very good performer. I still reluctantly do it, but you know, Trulia, you can be a Trulia Pro for I think $400, and that gives you extra exposure, extra pictures. You generate the leads off your listings. You can participate in the blog that they offer, and I mean, it's not something that I'm probably taking to the max. I can do more with it, but you know, it's an additional feather in our hat in our listing presentation, and I hate to give you all the good secrets, but it's an additional item that's cost effective that we can offer the seller in lieu of putting them in the Homes magazine, and we get business. I mean, I close some, and miraculously the Trulia stuff tends to be the bigger ones. So I'm very happy with the $400 or whatever we spent with Trulia.
And that's per year?
Yeah.
And do you do something with Zillow enhanced?
I do. Zillow has a Premier Agent program as well, but you know.
Jason, you seem to have a very succinct program in November and December for the next year. What percentage of your gross income do you allocate to marketing?
Well, I actually allocated across different marketing. I mean, our biggest marketing expenditure is the internet. And going back to what Amy said originally about getting into the business, and everybody wants to get in the business and go buy a website. And I agree with her. You know, you should probably run with your company website. I mean, we spend probably $13,000 on Google. Now we generate a six-figure-a-year income off of the campaign that we spend that money on, and it's new buyers that we can create a relationship and build future referral business for. So yes, on paper a worthwhile expenditure, but I mean, our biggest expense is labor. I mean, Martina's salary is extraordinarily significant, but to have a team member that's dedicated to your team and goes out and will run through block walls to provide the service package we're trying to is priceless. So.
Would you say about 10%?
Yeah, would you,
of your
see, she
income?
wouldn't be part of marketing.
No, she wouldn't be part of marketing, but I knew I should have brought my pie graph with me so that I knew better. I just did the taxes. I know what the overall expenses were for the team, but as far as breaking it out in individual segments, internet's the biggest one. Other than Realtor.com enhancements are about $1,000 a year for our team with our listing volume, and Zillow's 400, and Trulia's similar to that. So, you know, the internet piece is my biggest one.
So
right
based
now,
on your gross,
12,000
10%?
gross. Yeah.
10%.
Yeah.
10%.
That's what P&G allows, 10%.
Yeah. I guess I'm close to that. So.
Anybody else want to answer that question? No? Other questions?
How many units did everyone sell their first year?
How many units did everyone sell their first year? First 12 months? Let's do 12 months.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I would bet about 25 the
Okay.
first 12 months.
Amy's 25. Liz?
I don't remember, probably, let's say, probably around 40 or so.
Okay.
I sold a dozen and I was thrilled.
Jason?
I think, don't go in the MLS and hold that's by any means, but it was like 18-ish my first 12 months or something to that effect, and the second year went to like 35 or so.
Okay. Doubled your production.
Yeah.
I like it.
It gets harder to
It gets harder to double.
Do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who wants to double their production this year? Yeah, everybody wants to do that. Okay. Other questions? Yes.
What's your best organization tip besides your assistant?
When you incorporate and that's probably why I like the Wise Agent so much, is because my assistant likes the Wise Agent, and she's very detail oriented, but you need a mothership if you, not to go out, but you need some place where everything is at with regards to your past client database, active transactions in process. We warehouse all of our electronic documents in the Wise Agent. So it might not be the Wise Agent, but you need a system. Now, God forbid if Martina left my team, I need somewhere to pick up the pieces and put another person in that position. So I don't build the Wise Agent or work in that system every day, but you need something like that organizationally using technology to keep everybody organized as you build the team.
I use a lot of Google products like Gmail. My whole team is on Gmail. I can send out group emails to Gmail. We use Google Docs when we're